Right, now we're going to talk about the settlers from England. The biggest addition to the population of the new colony were the settlers who arrived from the UK from 1849 to 1851. Britain was in the midst of a depression in the 1840s, which caused millions of people to immigrate, mainly to America, Canada, and Australia. Natal receives a small percentage of these masses. There were various schemes under which people came to the colony. Among the smaller of those were Dr. Charles Johnston, G.P. Murdoch, John Richard Hackett, and William Josiah Irons. The last three concentrated on bringing out Wesleyans. Wesleyans, or Wesleyans are a theological tradition in Protestant Christianity based upon the ministry of the Reformer brothers John and Charles Wesley, according to Wikipedia. William Josiah Irons came from St Albans, which is a little commuter town outside London, and he wanted to create a settlement specifically for Methodists. In his early stages, his scheme had the patronage of the Earl of Verulam. Verulamium is a Roman settlement in St Albans. Verulam was the name to be given to this contemplated Wesleyan village, and Verulam it became, although the Earl later withdrew his support, and the only tangible reminder of his patronage was a marquee in which the settlers held divine service until they were able to erect a chapel. So I took this picture from the Verulam community Facebook page. Henry Boast was another who was instrumental in bringing settlers to Natal. He created a cooperative scheme and gathered together a number of Yorkshire people, mostly farmers who could pay their own passages, and planned to transport them in the palace. But on the Park of Embarkation at Hull, the palace was condemned by the immigration authorities as unseaworthy. Because of a technicality, poor old Boast found himself responsible for the living expenses of the immigrants at Hull, while arrangements were made for a substitute ship. All this trouble and the expenditure of his private means weakened Boast's health, and he succumbed to brain fever. His wife Mary resolved to carry on with the scheme, and with the aid of her father Joseph Smith, the difficulties were overcome, and they set sail in July 1850 on the Haidee. The land purchased for them was about 20 miles north of Maritzburg, and here the settlement of York was laid out. These settlers as a group were the most successful from the agricultural point of view, most of them having been farmers or farm laborers in England. If you want to know more about the Haidee, there is this Haidee Settlers Project. These are some pictures from Hugh Bland's website. This is the York Cash Store, and this is the cemetery at York, and this is the grave of a Barry. Immigration on a large scale began as a result of the efforts of Joseph Charles Byrne, and here is one of Byrne's adverts, which I found on bordersancestry.com. His wide advertising, his oratory at public meetings on immigration, and his lavishly furnished office in Pall Mall led many hundreds to decide on Natal as their new home. He's reminding me of the Veneerings in Our Mutual Friend. For the payment of £10, a statute adult, i.e. someone over the age of 14, could get a steerage passage and 20 acres of land. Children under 14 received 5 acres. Between May 1849 and February 1851, 20 J.C. Byrne and Company ships dropped anchor at Port Natal. To someone from England with its neat patchwork of rolling countryside, owning 20 acres seemed an attractive proposition. But the poor immigrants received a shock when they saw the nature of Natal's topography. The 20-acre allotments were of little or no use in a number of cases. Just to explain the Veneerings reference, Our Mutual Friend is this great sprawling novel by Charles Dickens, and they are some of the characters in that novel. Veneering A veneer, remember, is a surface that makes wood look better than it is underneath. J.C. Byrne and co-settlers. Most of the good crown land near Durban and Rysburg had been disposed of before Byrne's scheme had started, and much of what was available to his agent, John Morland, was like the Byrne area, too rugged for cultivation or in a low rainfall area. For example, Vaalkop and Dadelfontein near Ashburton, just outside Maritzburg. Even when the lie of the countryside and the rainfall was satisfactory, like in New England, it was found that many allotments had no water and or wood. And obviously that was necessary in order to have cooking fires. This is the Byrne Church in the Byrne Valley with its little lich gate. And incidentally, that is how Sheila and Brian met. Brian was setting up a museum on the history of the settlers. He was a farmer in the Byrne Valley, or near the Byrne Valley, and Sheila met him in the course of her research. Which kind of immigrants arrived? The main idea behind the granting of land to immigrants was to establish a solid agricultural population. And for this reason, only people in certain occupations like farmers, farm laborers, millers, blacksmiths, wagon makers, carpenters, and wheelwrights were approved by Her Majesty's Colonial Land and Immigration Commissioners as settlers, able to take advantage of land grants. This meant to many prospective immigrants changing their occupations overnight. John Morland, writing in retrospect of his experiences as Byrne's agent, said, "By the mere flourish of the pen, a hairdresser and perfumer, for instance, was speedily turned into an experienced agriculturalist, or a lady's maid became in the twinkling of an eye an experienced cook or dairymaid. A milliner or dressmaker became a milkmaid." He pointed out that most of the immigrants came from large cities in the UK and only about 2% were from the country areas.